Hey guys, welcome back to the channel for another episode of The Broken Life. We are here again today with our 99 Jeep Wrangler 4-liter 5-speed, affectionately known as the Jeep. You can find a playlist for this thing linked right up there and also down in the description. Speaking of videos in the playlist, what we're here to do today is to continue to address the annoying startup belt squeak we're getting out of this thing. We tried and failed last time by replacing the tensioner idler pulley, because I had already replaced the other idler pulley on this thing like 8-9 years ago, something like that. But I think that other one has actually failed again. And since this is an intermittent thing that only happens on startup, it's just about impossible to diagnose. There may be some things I could do to try, like if I had a helper to hit the key, that would help a lot, but I'm the lone wolf here, so it's just me. And typically things like alternators, power steering pumps, water pumps, etc. will not give you that problem. It's almost always an idler pulley. So we're just firing the parts cannon at this thing. But today we're going to try and save a little bit of scratch, because when I took the old pulley off of this thing many moons ago, I saved the original one because the bearings are actually serviceable. I didn't know that before I bought that one, and plus I just kind of like having it as a spare. So today we're just going to try and replace the bearing in the pulley itself. Try and save some money. And here are today's victims. This is the original idler pulley. I assume it's original to the Jeep. And the only number I could find on it there is that, I don't know, CG42S, I believe. And it turns out this is a super common bearing for idler pulleys on all kinds of stuff. It looks like a lot of Fords use these and everything else. And I believe both idlers on the Jeep use them as well. I think that's a 12 millimeter thick by 40 millimeter wide by whatever width that hole is. Something like that. And it cross references over to this SKF bearing, which is a 6203-2R SH/C3. Got this guy on eBay for about $6. They're on Amazon, but they're for quite a bit more money. And I'm quite sure you can get them locally too if you want to go down to Napa or whatever, do that. And to my surprise, this guy's actually made in France. A lot of SKF stuff's been moving to like India, China, whatever. I'll take Europe over those places. Would have preferred US, of course, but is what it is. The original bearing has no maker's mark of any kind that I could actually see, so is what it is. Might be the cheapest bearing on the planet, which might be why I think it has failed twice. What we're going to do is try and put this guy in this guy. But you guys that have been here for a minute will know I have a sordid history with sealed bearings, meaning I've gotten a whole gaggle of them that don't have any freaking grease inside them. Those are, I admit, all generic Chinese bearings. But since we've got, allegedly the good stuff here to work with, let's bust the seals out of it and see if this thing's greased up. And if it's not, we're for sure gonna. So we will try and pick the seal out of it, hopefully without destroying the seal. Ooh, like I just did. I think it's just an exterior. Yeah, okay, so that's a metal, higher quality seals than I'm used to. That's a metal seal inside there. Okay, and off she came, and yeah, there's basically no grease in there. Yeah, you can see that there's basically no grease in this thing. So, just like all the other sealed bearings I've encountered in the last couple of years, we're going to pack that guy full of more grease and put the seal back in him before we do anything with him. What they did put in it looks like it might be some kind of maybe silicone grease, and I don't have any of that. We're just going to put regular old axle grease in there, and if it dies, it dies, is what it is. And there we go, all packed up. I have made, I think, 4 videos now. This will probably be the 5th where I've added grease to sealed bearings like this, so I didn't bother to bore you with it this time. I will link the first one of those videos I did down in the description for you. There's a reasonable debate to be had. The axle grease is probably heavier than what this bearing should have. This pulley is probably about 1/4 the size of the crank pulley that actually drives the belt. So this thing's going to be like 4 times engine RPM. I think this thing's got like a 4,500 or 4,000 RPM redline. So this bearing could be whizzing around at like 16,000 RPM. My choice of grease may have been poor. There's only really one way to find out as far as I'm concerned. If this goes poorly, I'll probably try another bearing and pack it with something else, because for $6 we can. These pulleys are usually, well, the other one I just bought was $40. I think I paid $60 for the replacement for this one that I bought like straight over the dealership counter. So we'll certainly try a few different things here before we just keep buying these. So we've got our no grease problem addressed. The next problem we have to deal with is the idea of pressing things automatically implies that we have a press. We don't have a press. It also automatically implies that we have pressed dies, which we don't have those either. What we do have is our bench vise here. This is just a cheap Harbor Freight guy. Straight up, if you don't have a decent shop vise, you don't have a shop. If you don't have one, you need to get one of these things. Don't really care which one you get one that you just think is big enough for you that you can afford, but you got to have one. So this is what we're going to use as our press. We can exert multiple tons of force with the giant Acme screw in this thing, so she's going to work out just fine for us. For dies, we're going to use the old tried and true method of just use a socket. So you'll tons of times see guys with one socket on one side of this thing that sets up against the outer race. So you can push against that, and then you'll have a bigger socket in here that your thing can push out of. The problem in our case is that bearing by itself is 40 millimeters, so we have to get past that to get on it, to get it out of the pulley. So we need like a 45 millimeter hole to push that through. And you'll also notice, sockets aren't round. They have, socket teeth in them. So we would need a socket that's just gigantic, and that's just not going to work out for us. So I put my mind to work wondering what is cheap that I can buy to use as a die that I don't care about. And I came up with this total junk hole saw kit. This whole kit, which is 1 1/4 to 2 inch, was $6. I've already cut it open, and I can tell you those teeth aren't sharp at all. So we're probably not going to risk much damage to our pulley. We'll probably just scratch some paint. For reference, I went through my collection of hole saws and realized I did not have an 1 3/4, which is what we're going to be using for today's job. And just this one Klein hole saw, which I also don't believe to be very high quality, probably just higher quality than this, costs more than this whole set, so we don't mind sacrificing these. If I had a lathe, I'd probably just go ahead and cut those teeth off, but I don't, so we're not going to worry about it. So this is going to be our interior die, and we're going to use that socket as our exterior, I hope. So to give you a little better view here, our hole saw is just going to go whoop like that, and I can't really show it on camera too well, but it's just beyond this outer race. So we have a place to push the bearing. Then on the other side, this cheap junk Harbor Freight socket just on the inside of the outer race. So we should be able to put this in our vise and out the bearing comes. Something else to pay attention to if you are doing this at home is examine how far the bearing's pressed in before you start. There's no lip on this pulley to stop the bearing. And on this guy, it looks like they basically got it centered up. There's a couple millimeters sticking out of each side of it. So as long as we're close to that, we should be fine. And if we're off a little bit, that'll just track this pulley inboard or outboard a little, and it shouldn't matter. You can see there's just from where the paint's worn, there's plenty of space for the belt to a little bit if it needs to. The way you want to do this, if you at all can, is just get your vise snugged up with all your bits in it, and then you should still have a little bit of slack to sort of move things around. I might have mine just a little too snug. And just make sure we're just perfectly on that outer race, and we're not going to end up pushing on the pulley itself, because that wouldn't be good. And the hole saw on the other side is sort of self-centering, so I don't think we need to worry about it a lot. Eyeball that up good, make sure we're fine, and we're good to go. So just go to her gently. Sometimes stuff like this will also just pop free and everything will fall out of the vise. Don't be alarmed if that happens. I don't think we're going to get that lucky. I should probably have some eye protection on. I'm going to go ahead and do that. It is also possible, but not too likely, that the pulley could have a taper to it, so that bearing only wants to press from one way. We'll give this the beans a little bit and see how things go. And they're pretty stiff. Stiff enough that I'm going to regroup and re-examine my setup here. Well, everything looks okay. So let's see if today's the day I can break my Harbor Freight vise by putting this 32 millimeter wrench on it as a cheater bar. She doesn't look like she wants to move. I think maybe I will see if I can get it set up to try it from the other direction. Okay, so I got her flipped around. Let's get our cheater. Boy, man. Well, something let loose. Was it the vise or the bearing? I'm going to take this apart and see what's going on, because this got spontaneously easier to move, and that's probably not good. Turns out I'm just a chicken, and she's actually on her way out of there. I don't know how well you guys will be able to see it, but I can see like a little ridge of dirt. So yeah, she was on her way out. All right, more of the same. Yeah, let's go on our way now. Much better. And there we go. Pieces all over the floor. And that went exactly as we hoped. Old guy out. You can see it was pretty rusty. You can probably see it kind of galled on the way out. We'll oil this up before we press our new one in. Hole saw didn't even leave any little teeth marks, or maybe just a few. Yeah, you can just see them down in there. I don't think we left any on the other side. Maybe. So that worked exactly as expected or hoped. We came out from this side, so we want to push in from the opposite side, something like that. I'm going to oil that guy up, and we'll probably just try and start it by hand with like a hammer, and just hope we get it started square. I just have a little bit of air tool oil here. A little dab will do us. Never want to go in dry. Get her dropped in there. Now the idea is we just want to see if we can get it started squarely. Or if it hammers in super nice, we might just do that. It's actually going in pretty nice with the hammer. So I'm just going to continue down this path and see where it takes us. She's square. She is all kinds of not square. Still all kinds of not square. Okay, since this is not wanting to hammer squarely, we will attempt to press it. It's square enough that I think it'll be okay once we get her in there. As you do this, it's also a good idea to check and make sure your bearing rolls every now and then. I think I'm already in deep enough that it's too late for that, so I'm just going to go with it. You can see it moving. I think it just straightened out for me. Yeah, it just got easier to push too, so she's going in straight now. Oh yeah, nice and easy. Now it's just a matter of trying to eyeball it up to know where to stop. I'm going to pull it out and take a look at it. It does still spin. And it looks like I stopped a little short. There on the back it should be a few millimeters proud. So need to go just a touch more. There we go. We've got a little bit of a stick out on this side and a little bit of a stick out on that side, pretty much like factory. She still rolls really nice, so we didn't boof anything too horribly bad. One repaired idler. And our garbage hole saw here just took a complete beating. The whole back of it's just smashed in now. Yep, sacrificial lamb to the cause that we can probably use again as another press die if we want to. We're going to put them right in here with tools of other high quality. I will save you guys the boredom of watching me install this thing, because everything we have to do to put this one on, we just did when we replaced the other ones. So I will just once again refer you to that link in the description, but just for your own education / happiness, the guy we're after is that guy right there. The one we just did is that guy right there. They are different, but the process for replacing them is the same. We got her installed. Time to start it up and see if we got it this time. Yay, we got it this time. We only had to spend $6 more than the $50 we already spent trying to fix this problem. But you know what they say, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, you're pretty good at fooling me. As always guys, I want to thank you for stopping in for this video. We'll catch you on the next one. I'm Max, that's Saddington Bear, and we make videos like this all the time. Here are a couple links to some other videos we've made, and we really appreciate you guys stopping in.